My girlfriend's so-called male idol, the guy she'd admired for years and who'd been abroad for 3, finally came back. At the welcome back dinner, Gardenia spent the entire time picking food for him, fussing over him, asking if he was cold or tired, as if I, sitting right next to her, were a corpse. The men shot me a provocative glance, then turned to Gardenia and said, "Gardenia, you've always understood me best. Too bad some people just don't know how to cherish what they have." Gardenia was just about to echo him when I flipped the table. Scalding soup splashed all over the cheating pair. Amid the screams, I calmly straightened my cuffs. "If you're this in love, then this pig slop is on the house." With that, I turned around and wrapped an arm around the wealthy heiress standing at the door watching the show, who also happened to be that man's fiancée. "Miss Lee, a dump like this is filthy. How about we go somewhere else and catch up?" Chapter 1. Truth be told, before I flipped the table, I had already endured 40 full minutes. In those 40 minutes, Gardenia didn't look at me once. Her chopsticks seemed to have eyes of their own, precisely picking up the river prawns Adrian loved most, peeling the shells, dipping them in vinegar, and placing them into his bowl. The movements were so practiced that it made me feel like the one who'd slept beside her for the past 3 years wasn't me, but this man who had landed from France less than 3 hours ago. "Adrian, your stomach isn't great. You must not be used to cold food overseas. Eat something hot." Gardenia's voice was so gentle it could practically drip water. I'd only ever heard her use that tone when she asked me to buy her that Chanel hobo bag. Adrian wore a linen shirt that looked expensive, the collar casually open, exuding a cynical, artsy vibe. He enjoyed Gardenia's attentiveness, yet his gaze drifted toward me, 3 parts amusement, 7 parts provocation. "Sean, right, I've heard Gardenia mention you." He lifted his wineglass but made no move to toast me, just swirled it in his hand. "I hear you're in finance. Not bad. Making money isn't shameful. It's just that we artsy types don't really understand those number games of yours. All reeking of money." My hand paused mid-cut on the steak. Reeking of money. The 28,000 yuan designer coat Gardenia was wearing, the latest iPhone in her hand, and this welcome back dinner costing over 2,000 per person. Which one of those hadn't been paid for with that very money stink of mine? Before I could speak, Gardenia got anxious first. She lightly scolded Adrian, tapping the back of his hand. "Adrian, don't say that. Sean is a bit vulgar." "Sure, but he's honest. He's taken good care of me these past few years." Honest, vulgar. Those 2 words landed like precise slaps across my face. I put down my knife and fork, wiped my mouth with a napkin, and looked at Gardenia with a half smile. "Taken care of you? You mean helping you pay off the 50,000 in credit card debt someone left behind 3 years ago? Or covering the monthly payments on that Panamera?" The air in the private room froze instantly. Gardenia's face flushed red. She hadn't expected me to bring up money in front of Adrian. To her, talking about money was the most hurtful and undignified thing in the world. "Sean, what do you mean by that?" She slammed her chopsticks down, eyes blazing. "Today is about welcoming Adrian back. Why bring up all that old crap? Are you even a man? Do you have any sense of proportion at all?" Adrian let out a perfectly timed chuckle. He wrapped an arm around Gardenia's shoulders, like he was soothing a bristling cat, then turned to me, superiority written all over his face. "Gardenia, you really do understand me best. It's just a shame some people don't know how to cherish things, or what romance even is." As he spoke, he picked up the peeled prawn and brought it toward Gardenia's mouth. "Come on, Gardenia, don't be mad. Open up." Gardenia lowered her head shyly, ready to take the prawn. At that moment, the string in my mind called reason snapped. I stood up, both hands gripping the edge of the marble tabletop. My muscles tightened. I put in force. Crash. The massive noise made the entire private room shake. An entire table of exquisitely prepared dishes, along with the scalding Buddha jumps over the wall, red wine, and seafood, traced a filthy arc through the air, then landed squarely on the cheating pair. "Ah!" Gardenia let out a shrill scream. The peeled prawn never made it into her mouth. Instead, that basin of hot soup gave her 28,000 yuan coat a free dye spa. Adrian had it even worse. A whole plate of abalone sauce was dumped onto the hairstyle he was so proud of, flowing down his so-called artist shirt, leaving him as miserable as a drowned rat. The private room door was pushed open by the commotion. A waiter and several onlooking guests stood at the entrance, staring in shock. Among them stood a woman wearing a black, custom-tailored high-fashion suit dress. Her arms were crossed, her expression cold, yet the corner of her lips carried a faint trace of amusement. Elisa Lee, the eldest daughter of the Lee group, and Adrian's fiancée in name. What a small world. Amid the screams and curses, I unhurriedly straightened my cuffs, flicking off dust that didn't even exist. I didn't spare the 2 people on the floor a single glance. My voice was calm, as if I were discussing the weather. "Since you're so deeply in love, this meal of pig feed is my treat. Sean, you're insane. I'm calling the police." You psycho. Gardenia screamed hysterically while shaking vegetable scraps off her body. I ignored her completely and walked straight toward the door. When I passed by Elisa, I stopped. I reached out and naturally wrapped an arm around her slender waist. Her body stiffened slightly, but she didn't dodge. Instead, she tilted her head and raised an eyebrow at me. Miss Lee, I said with a smile, looking into her sharp, intelligent eyes. A dump like this is far too filthy. How about we go somewhere else and catch up? Elisa glanced at the fiancé inside who was still jumping and raging, a mocking curve appearing at her lips. She smoothly hooked her arm through mine, her voice cool and pleasant. Sure, I wasn't full anyway. Your treat. Chapter 2. Once we stepped out of the restaurant, the night wind hit me, and the adrenaline rushing through my veins finally eased a little, but I didn't regret it. If anything, these past 3 years had never felt as clear-headed and liberating as this moment. Elisa's arm was still linked through mine, with no intention of letting go. It wasn't until we got into her black Maybach that she released me, leaning back against the leather seat and turning her head to study me. Sean, senior investment manager at Taiga Capital, a well-known asset reaper in the industry. She recited my resume with precision, her gaze carrying a hint of scrutiny. Didn't expect your taste to be this bad. I fastened my seatbelt and let out a self-mocking smile. Miss Lee, you flatter me. Who hasn't been blind a few times when they were young? That said, your taste isn't exactly stellar either. I was referring to Adrian. Elisa didn't get angry. She reached into the armrest box, took out a pack of women's cigarettes, pulled one free, and toyed with it without lighting it. A family-arranged engagement. The old man misjudged him, thought someone in the arts would be refined. Who knew he'd turn out to be an empty suit? Her tone was filled with disgust. You did well flipping that table. I've wanted to do that for a long time, but it wasn't convenient for me. So you didn't push me away because you wanted to use me as your gun? I asked. Mutual benefit. Elisa turned to face me directly. You need to get rid of that leech of an ex-girlfriend. I need a reason to call off the engagement. Making a scene today works in both our favor. A smart woman. Talking to smart people saves energy. Where to? She asked. We didn't get to eat. I'm actually hungry. Do you mind street food? Miss Lee. Elisa Lee started the car, the engine letting out a low growl. Lead the way. Half an hour later, an old, well-known wonton stall, the Lee family's heiress, worth billions, was sitting at a greasy folding table, copying my moves and dumping a huge spoonful of chili oil into her bowl. How much does Adrian owe? I asked suddenly, after eating a wonton. Elisa paused mid-motion and looked up at me. How did you know? The shirt he wore at dinner, it's a current season piece from brand C, but the cuffs are worn, second-hand. The Richard Mille on his wrist, the sheen's off, a fake. And most importantly, I put down my spoon. The way he looks at Gardenia isn't the way you look at someone you love. It's the way you look at a fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Elisa laughed, this time, genuinely. Manager Sean really does have sharp eyes. He racked up gambling debts in France. Loan sharks followed him back home. This trip back was to grab a payout and run. Or marry into the Lee family and have you fill the hole. I finished for her. 30 million. Elisa raised 3 fingers. He thinks I don't know. Gardenia doesn't have that kind of money. I said coldly. She doesn't, but you do. Elisa replied with a half smile. She has your secondary credit card. The car's loan is under your payments. The apartment is yours. Sean, these past 3 years, you've been keeping a canary. I took out my phone and opened my banking app. Tapped a few times. Freeze the secondary card. Stop all automatic payments. Elisa watched me and whistled softly. Ruthless. But the apartment's tricky, isn't it? Her name's on it. Her name. I sneered. When I bought it, I planned ahead. It's notarized as premarital property. Adding her name was just to put her at ease. She only has the right to live there. No ownership. And my eyes turned icy. The down payment was mine. The mortgage was mine. If she dares to make trouble, I'll make her cough up 3 years' worth of rent. Elisa looked at me, a flicker of admiration passing through her eyes. Looks like I don't need to worry about you going soft. Just then, my phone started vibrating like crazy. Gardenia flashed on the screen. It buzzed more than 10 times in a row. I didn't answer. I muted it and placed it face down on the table. Not picking up, Elisa asked. Let the bullets fly a little longer, I said, sipping the hot broth. If I answer now, it'll just be her screaming. The real show starts when she realizes her card won't go through. Chapter 3. Sure enough, less than 10 minutes later, my phone vibrated again. This time it was a WeChat notification. Gardenia sent a barrage of voice messages, mixed in with several photos. In the photos, Adrian was still awkwardly wiping grease off his body, while a close-up of the bill was taken crystal clear. That dinner, plus a few good bottles of wine, 24,000. Add the damaged tableware and cleaning fees, and the restaurant demanded another 5,000. Total, 29,000. I tapped the first voice message. I didn't hold the phone to my ear. I put it straight on speaker. Gardenia's shrill voice exploded over the wonton stall. Sean, you stopped the secondary card. Are you even human? You pick now to cut off my card. All the waiters are staring at us. Transfer the money right now. You already made Adrian look like this. You're seriously going to make him pay. Send me 30,000 immediately, or this isn't over. Don't even think about coming home tonight. Elisa, listening to this righteous screaming, nearly spat out her wontons. That lung capacity. She commented, what a waste not going into opera. I didn't reply. I simply blacklisted Gardenia. Then I opened Alipay and transferred €1 to her. Note, breakup fee. Also, I'm not paying for that pig feed. Whoever ate it pays for it. Elisa raised an eyebrow at my move. €1. That's brutal. You're humiliating her. Not really. At market price, the pork in that meal is worth about that much. I wiped my mouth and stood up. Let's go. Miss Lee, I'll take you home. I've got some packing to do. Packing. I'll let her live in that place for a few more days. It's filthy. I don't want it anymore. By the time we reached my apartment building, it was already 10 at night. Elisa rolled down the window and looked at the brightly lit high-rise. Need help. The Lee family has a few excellent lawyers. They're very good at property disputes. Thanks, but that'd be overkill. I waved her off. When it's time to really deal with Adrian, I'll come to you. Elisa handed me a business card. There was only a private phone number on it. Anytime. Sean, don't disappoint me. The Maybach disappeared into the night. I stood downstairs and lit a cigarette. Looking at the window that I once called home, I felt nothing at all. The elevator climbed to the 16th floor. I pressed my finger to the scanner. Beep. Fingerprint verification failed. I tried again. Beep. Fingerprint verification failed. Then the password. Incorrect password. Heh. Gardenia worked fast. In less than 2 hours, she deleted my fingerprint and changed the code. So this was her plan, lock me out and teach me a lesson. Muffled voices drifted from inside. Gardenia, this isn't a good idea. He bought this place. After all. Adrian's voice, dripping with affected delicacy. What are you scared of? My name's on the deed. This is my apartment. He went crazy tonight and made you look like that. He needs to learn his lesson. Let him kneel outside all night. But, that 20-something thousand. I paid it on my credit card. Oh, Adrian, don't worry. When he comes back tomorrow to apologize, I'll make him pay you back double. He's just a simp. Leave him hanging overnight and he'll behave. Standing outside the door, listening to them, I was so furious I laughed. Make me kneel outside. Pay back double. Gardenia, did you really think I was still that Sean who revolved around you like a pathetic simp? I took out my phone and dialed the property manager. Manager Wong. This is Sean, the owner of Unit 1602. Yes, I forgot my key, and the password doesn't work. Please bring a few security guards up. I need to force the lock. Oh, and help me check. Were there any non-residents registered coming in tonight? There were? Perfect. Call the police too. Say there's been a break-in, home invasion and robbery. I hung up and leaned against the door, lighting another cigarette. 5 minutes later, the elevator doors opened. Manager Wong came running up with 3 burly security guards, even carrying riot control forks, all slightly out of breath. Sir, are you okay? I'm fine. The people inside might not be. I pointed at the door. Break it. Manager Wong hesitated. This door's pretty expensive. I'll pay. Replace it with a new one. Got it. Do it. The 3 guards didn't waste a word. They grabbed the breaching tools and went to work. Bang, bang, crash. Amid the thunderous impacts, the expensive security door burst open. I stepped over the broken door panel and walked into the living room through the swirling smoke. On the sofa, Gardenia and Adrian, both in bathrobes, looked like 2 startled quails, staring in terror at me as if I were a demon. Adrian was wearing my bathrobe. Say, Sean, what are you trying to do? Gardenia shrieked as she jumped up. I exhaled a ring of smoke, my gaze icy as it swept over them. What am I doing? I said calmly. Catching thief. Chapter 4. Thief. What thief? Sean, are you insane? This is Adrian. Gardenia stepped in front of Adrian, shielding him like he was some priceless treasure. Behind me, the security guards exchanged awkward looks. Manager Wong rubbed his hands nervously. Sir, this looks like someone you know. I ignored Manager Wong and walked straight to the sofa, yanking away the Hermes wool throw that Adrian had been sitting on. I'd carried it back from Europe myself just last month. Manager Wong, this man is not a registered resident. He entered without my consent, is wearing my clothes, and using my belongings. If that's not theft, what is? I turned my gaze to Adrian's wrist. There was a green submariner there. My watch. Oh, so, great artist Adrian, weren't you above the stench of money? I sneered. Then why are you sneaking around wearing my watch? Adrian's face went pale. He instinctively tried to hide his hand behind his back, then forced himself to calm down. Sean, don't slander me. This Gardenia let me wear it for fun. It's just a crappy watch anyway, who'd care about it? If you don't care, then take it off. I stepped forward, staring him down, intimidated by my presence. Adrian stumbled back 2 steps and collapsed onto the sofa. Sean, that's enough. Gardenia rushed over and shoved me, but I didn't budge an inch. I told him to wear it. You've got so many watches, what's wrong with letting Adrian wear one? Why are you so petty? Her sheer self-righteousness was laughable. My things, I'll give them to whoever I want, even if I feed them to a dog. That's my business. But taking my belongings without my permission and giving them to some random man, that's called stealing. I turned to Manager Wong. Did you call the police? Before he could answer, Gardenia shrieked. No police. Sean, if you call the police, I'll kill myself. Be my guest. I looked at her coldly. Jump from here. 18 floors, it should be a pretty ugly splatter. Just try not to damage the landscaping. Makes things hard for property management. Gardenia froze. She had never seen me like this before. The slightest frown from her would have had me worrying for half the day. Now I was telling her to go die, and she didn't know how to react. Sean, how did you become like this? Her eyes reddened, tears welling up. That trick used to work every single time. Unfortunately for her, I was immune now. Cut it out, I said, pointing at the door. Now, immediately, take your trash and get out. You're kicking me out. This is my apartment. Gardenia shouted in disbelief. Your apartment? I laughed and pulled out my phone, bringing up photos of the notarized agreement. Look carefully. I paid the down payment. I pay the mortgage. Your name's on it. Sure, but it's just decorative. If I take this to court for asset division, how much do you think you'll get? Debt. Maybe half of that. And one more thing, I added, gesturing around the room. All the furniture and appliances were bought by me. I've got every receipt. If you refuse to leave, I'll report Adrian for home invasion and theft. The amount involved is more than enough to put him behind bars for a few years. At the word prison, Adrian completely panicked. He might be a con artist, but he was terrified of the police. He hurriedly took off the watch and placed it on the coffee table, tugging at Gardenia's sleeve. Gardenia, maybe we should leave first. Leave? Go where? Where are we supposed to stay tonight? Gardenia made one last attempt to struggle. That's your problem. I sat down in the armchair, crossed my legs. You have 5 minutes. If you're still within my line of sight after that, I won't just call the police, I'll call the media too. An artist freshly back from overseas getting arrested for home invasion and theft. Sounds like a pretty explosive headline, don't you think? This move struck Adrian right in his weak spot. He still needed to rely on his artist persona to skim money. He absolutely could not afford this kind of scandal. Gardenia, let's go, now. Adrian no longer cared about keeping up appearances. He grabbed Gardenia and dragged her toward the door. Gardenia stumbled as she was pulled along. She turned her head to look at me, her eyes filled with resentment and unwillingness. Sean, you'll regret this. What you did to me today. Even if you kneel down and beg me in the future, I'll never forgive you. I didn't even lift my eyelids. Close the door on your way out. No need to shut it too tight. It's getting replaced anyway. The two of them fled in a sorry state. The room finally fell quiet. Manager Wong wiped the sweat from his forehead. Sir, then, thanks for your hard work. I took 1,000 yuan in cash from my wallet and handed it to Manager Wong. Get the guys some cigarettes. Have someone fix the door tomorrow. For tonight, trouble yourselves to patrol a bit more. Got it. Don't worry. The security guards left. I looked at the now empty living room. The watch on the coffee table, still carrying Adrian's body heat, made me feel sick. I picked up the watch, walked to the balcony, and flicked my wrist. A green arc streaked across the night sky and disappeared into the bushes below. Anything that's been dirted, I never keep. Chapter 5. Early the next morning, I went to the office. The moment I stepped into my workspace, my assistant Danny leaned over with a face full of gossip. Sean, is it true you flipped a table at Orange Restaurant last night, and even left with the Lee family's eldest daughter? The whole circle's going crazy. Good news never leaves the house. Bad news travels 1,000 miles. There were plenty of insiders at the dinner last night. The rumor spread faster than a stock crash. That's nothing, I said as I turned on my computer. There'll be plenty more of this kind of thing in the future. Then, what about Gardenia? Wasn't she your girlfriend of 3 years? Ex-girlfriend, I corrected calmly. And from now on, anyone who mentions that name in front of me gets half their bonus docked. Danny immediately mimed zipping her mouth shut. I got to work. The first thing on my agenda, asset liquidation. I pulled up every statement from the secondary cards Gardenia had used and printed them into a thick stack. Bags, clothes, cosmetic treatments, even gifts she'd bought for Adrian, all paid for with my money. Total, 1.48 million. That didn't even include the mortgage or the car loan. I was in the middle of crunching numbers when the front desk called. Manager Sean, there's a woman named Gardenia downstairs looking for you. She says it's urgent and is making a scene in the lobby. Heh, she moved fast. Let her up. 5 minutes later, Gardenia burst into my office. She'd changed clothes, no longer wearing last night's filthy coat, but her face was haggard. Dark circles heavy under her eyes. Clearly, life hadn't been easy for her after leaving my place last night. Sean, where did you take my car? She slammed her hand on the desk the moment she walked in. I went to the garage this morning and it was gone. Did you have it towed? The Panamera was mine. I bought it, but I'd let her drive it daily to keep her happy. Last night, I hadn't just changed the door locks. I'd remotely locked the car and had a towing company haul it straight to a used car dealer. That's my car, I said without looking up, continuing to read my report. I sold it. Sold it, Gardenia screeched. That was a birthday gift you gave me. A gift, I sneered. Was it transferred into your name? The registration's under mine. I've been paying the loan. Do I need your permission to dispose of my own assets? You, Gardenia trembled with rage. How can you be so heartless? I don't even have a car to get to work now. I have to squeeze onto the subway. What's wrong with the subway? Low carbon and eco-friendly. I tossed the thick stack of statements onto the desk in front of her. Perfect timing. Sign this. Gardenia flipped through a couple of pages. Her face instantly changed. What is this? An IOU. A breakup settlement. I tapped the number at the bottom. This one, 48 million, is what you spent on my secondary cards over the past 3 years. And although the car's been sold, you still need to shoulder part of the depreciation and 3 years of loan interest. Add in rent, round it up nicely. 2 million. Are you insane? Gardenia ripped the papers to shreds and flung them in my face. We were going to get married. What's mine isn't yours. Now that we've broken up, you're counting pennies with me. Do you have any shame? Marriage was before, I replied coolly. I brushed the paper scraps off my suit. Gardenia, get the situation straight. In these 3 years, even a dog I fed would have wagged its tail at me. I fed you, and you used my money to raise another man. That's unjust enrichment, bordering on fraud. I'll give you 3 days. I stood up, looking down at her. Either you pay up, or you wait for a lawyer's letter. That job of yours at the foreign firm looks respectable, doesn't it? If your company finds out you're being sued over financial disputes, possibly fraud, how long do you think you'll keep that position? That was her Achilles heel. Someone like Gardenia cared most about her image and that so-called elite job. She was finally scared. Her tone softened, even carrying a hint of pleading. Sean, do we really have to take this that far? I know I was wrong yesterday. I shouldn't have ignored you just to save face, but there really is nothing between Adrian and me. We're just pure friends. Pure enough for him to wear my bathrobe. That was because his clothes were dirty. Gardenia stepped closer, trying to grab my hand. Sean, can we stop this? Can we make up? I'll make Adrian move out. I won't contact him anymore. We'll go back to how things were. If this had been before, I might actually have softened after hearing that. But now, looking at her hypocritical face, all I felt was disgust. Just then, the office door was pushed open. Elisa walked in on 10-centimeter heels, her presence commanding the room. She didn't even glance at Gardenia. She tossed a folder onto my desk. Manager Sean, we finished checking Adrian's background. It's even more impressive than we expected. The moment Gardenia saw Elisa, she snapped like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Elisa, why are you here? What's your relationship with Sean? Elisa turned around, took off her sunglasses, and revealed a pair of eyes curved in a half smile. Gardenia, isn't it obvious? I'm discussing a business deal worth several $100 million with manager Sean. As for you, she looked Gardenia up and down. Which wet market shrew wandered into the wrong place? You. Gardenia choked with anger. I picked up the folder and flipped through a few pages, my smile growing deeper. Gardenia, didn't you say Adrian was just a pure friend? I handed her the documents. Why don't you take a look at what this pure friend has been up to in France? Inside were copies of Adrian's IOUs from an underground casino in France, intimate photos of him with several wealthy older women, and even a court summons for fraud. In France, he wasn't doing any kind of art creation at all. He was circulating among rich socialites, living off scams and sleeping his way through them. This time he came back because he couldn't survive there anymore. Creditors were after him. I pointed at one of the photos. See this 50-year-old French countess, another one of his pure friends. Gardenia's hands started shaking. She stared at the photos, her face pale as paper. No, that's impossible. Adrian said he'd held exhibitions at the Louvre. Exhibitions? Elisa snorted. That was him renting a basement with his own money, putting up a few paintings bought from street stalls, and taking staged photos to fool idiots like you. Gardenia's worldview collapsed. The artist boyfriend she'd always been so proud of turned out to be nothing more than a complete fraud and a male prostitute. Now you can get out. I dismissed her coldly. Go back and tell Adrian the Lee family's legal team is already on the way. His days in this country are numbered. Gardenia walked out of the office like a lost soul. She didn't even spare a glance at the shredded settlement papers on the floor. Chapter 6. After Gardenia left, only Elisa and I remained in the office. Thanks, I said, lifting the file in my hand toward Elisa. This came at the perfect time. Not just to help you, Elisa replied as she took a seat across from me. That idiot Adrian actually ran to the Lee residence this morning and asked my grandfather for money, claiming he wanted to hold an art exhibition. In reality, he was trying to plug the hole he dug overseas. And did the old man give it to him? He almost did. That guy's mouth is way too sweet. He practically had my grandfather wrapped around his finger. Elisa's eyes turned cold, so I had to speed things up. Sean, there's a charity gala tonight. Adrian will be there. Gardenia probably will too. And you? I'm one of the organizers. Of course I'll be there. Elisa looked straight at me. You're coming too. I'm short one male companion. Me. I pointed at myself. Isn't that kind of event not exactly my scene? What's inappropriate about it? Elisa smiled faintly. Tonight is Adrian's last moment in the spotlight, and the beginning of his total disgrace. Don't you want to see a show like that with your own eyes? I laughed. All right, I'm in. 7 o'clock that evening. H-City's most exclusive private club, perfume and jewels, champagne and shadows. Wearing a bespoke suit Elisa had arranged for, I walked into the banquet hall arm in arm with the most dazzling heiress of the Lee family. The moment we entered, I saw Adrian. I had to admit, he had his ways. He'd already coaxed Gardenia back this quickly. Dressed in a white suit, looking every bit the gentleman, he stood among a group of elites, eloquently expounding on his so-called artistic philosophy. Gardenia clung to his arm. Though her expression was a little stiff, she still forced a smile, basking in the gazes around her. It seemed that File hadn't completely shattered her illusions. Or perhaps she simply refused to admit she'd been blind, clinging desperately to self-deception. Look, isn't that Miss Lee? Who's the man next to her? He's handsome, never seen him before. Isn't Adrian her fiancé? Why is he with that woman named Gardenia instead? The murmurs around us grew louder. Adrian noticed us too. His expression stiffened for a split second, but he quickly recovered his fake smile and walked over with a wineglass in hand. Elisa, you're here. He completely ignored me and gazed at Elisa with feigned affection. I've been waiting for you. There's an auction tonight. I have a painting up for bidding. All for charity. Elisa Lee looked at him coolly. Oh, you're painting? From that Louvre basement series of yours? Adrian's smile froze on his face. Standing beside him, Gardenia stared at me, linking arms with Elisa, jealousy practically spilling from her eyes. Sean, you really climbed the ladder fast, she said sarcastically. So quick to become someone's kept man. Miss Lee, you should be careful, this guy's a freeloader. He used to live off me too. Smack. A crisp slap cut her off mid-sentence. The entire hall fell dead silent. The one who struck her wasn't me, it was Elisa. She calmly flexed her wrist, her gaze sharp as a blade. Gardenia, you can eat nonsense, but you can't talk nonsense. Sean is my partner, and the most important guest here tonight. And who do you think you are, to run your mouth in a place like this? Gardenia clutched her face, staring at Elisa in disbelief. Why you hit me. So what if I did? Elisa sneered. This is the Lee family's venue. Security, throw these two out. They don't have invitations and snuck in. Wait. Adrian panicked. Elisa, don't do this. I'm your fiancé, and I do have an invitation. Fiancé. Elisa cut him off coldly. Not anymore. As of this moment, she stepped onto the stage, took the microphone, and faced the guests. Everyone, I'd like to take this opportunity to announce something. The marriage alliance between the Lee family and the Sun family is hereby cancelled, effective immediately, because the Lee family does not take in trash, especially the kind that racks up massive debts overseas and lives off scamming women. The large screen suddenly lit up. What played was surveillance footage of Adrian's son in a French casino, along with records of his various transactions with wealthy women. There was even an audio clip, Adrian bragging to a friend on the phone. I'm going back just to lock down that idiot Elisa. Once I skim the Lee family's money, I'll head back to France and live it up. The hall erupted. Every gaze turned toward Adrian, the look people reserve for garbage. Adrian collapsed to the floor, his face ashen. Gardenia stared blankly at the screen. This time, she could no longer deceive herself. She turned to Adrian and lunged at him like a madwoman. Adrian, you lied to me. Didn't you say you loved me? Didn't you say you were going to marry me? Give me back my money. Give it back. The two of them clawed at each other, fighting like rabid dogs. Security rushed in and dragged them out like dead weight. I stood beneath the stage, watching it all, feeling nothing but calm. Elisa Lee stepped down and came to my side, handing me a glass of champagne. Feel good? She asked. I took the glass and clinked it against hers. Very. But the real show is only just beginning. Oh. Adrian's creditors will be in the country tomorrow. I've also frozen Gardenia's credit cards. What comes next? I took a sip of champagne and looked at Elisa. Is the real hell? Then I added. Though, Miss Lee, Tonight's performance cost you quite a bit. Publicly calling off an engagement like that, not great for your reputation, is it? Reputation. Elisa laughed, a hint of cunning in her smile. As long as I get rid of trash, who cares about reputation? Besides, she leaned in close, her breath warm and fragrant. With such an outstanding new partner like manager Sean standing in front of me, who's going to remember that garbage ex at all? Chapter 7. Over the next month, H-City staged a spectacular dog-eat-dog farce. Adrian was chased all over town by creditors and was eventually placed under formal police investigation for fraud. Gardenia was also taken in for questioning on suspicion of harboring and assisting fraud. Although she was ultimately released due to lack of direct knowledge, her job was gone for good. Foreign firms value reputation above all else. Once a scandal like that breaks, termination is immediate, with industry-wide notification. She no longer had the nerve to come asking me for money, because for that $1.48 million, I had already entrusted a lawyer to file a lawsuit. The court froze the small amount of savings under her name. After her parents found out, they came to my company to make a scene. Security threw them out, and I had them detained for several days for disrupting office operations. I heard that Gardenia now works the night shift at a convenience store, and still has to endure harassment from Adrian's creditors on a daily basis. As for Elisa and me, what started as an act quietly turned real, becoming an open secret within our circle. At first, the Lee family patriarch had strong objections to me, a poor kid with no background whatsoever. But after I helped Lee Group resolve a thorny merger case and pushed their stock up 3 points, the old man's attitude toward me changed completely. "Sean," he said, "come over for dinner this weekend. Elisa's grandmother is making soup." That was acceptance. That weekend, I drove the new Maybach Elisa had given me, taking her to the Lee family's old residence. We stopped at an intersection, red light. Absent-mindedly, I glanced out the window. By the roadside, Gardenia was squatting in her convenience store uniform, eating a boxed meal. She had lost a lot of weight. Her hair was dull and yellowed. There was no trace left of the polished white-collar woman she once was. A drunk passerby bumped into her, knocking the box from her hands and spilling the food onto the ground. She didn't explode. She didn't scream. She simply crouched down, picked up the scattered grains of rice, and stuffed them into her mouth. That pig feed she once wouldn't even look at was now keeping her alive. As if sensing something, she looked up in this direction. Through the darkened car window, she probably couldn't see me, but I could see the emptiness and numbness in her eyes. The light turned green. I pressed the accelerator, and the car glided smoothly down the street. "What are you looking at?" Elisa asked from the passenger seat. "Nothing." I kept my eyes on the road and tightened my grip on her hand. "Just saw a passerby. By the way," she added, "what do you want to eat tonight?" "Let's eat at home. I learned a new dish. I'll cook it for you." "All right." She smiled. Chef Sean. Outside the window, the city's neon lights streamed backward. All the ugly past had finally been left far behind. The road ahead was radiant with light.